Coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, we're going to get you all caught up with all things silver and black as far as training camp goes, what stood out or who stood out over the weekend. That plus a whole lot more comes up on Monday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, August 7th, 2023.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. Of course, if you're checking us out on YouTube, thank you. Off top, it's great that you check us out. Give us a couple minutes of your time each and every day. We definitely appreciate that. We appreciate you, and we appreciate my man Ari. He does a great job each and every day getting us up on YouTube. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be on YouTube, so we definitely appreciate his efforts. You can check him out on Twitter at Ari Produces. You want to hit me up on Twitter, you can, at your boy Q254. And of course, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. As a matter of fact, those calls and texts are going to be coming up in segment number 3 of today's show. Segment number 2, going to talk all things Marcus Peters and what he brings to the table as a Raider, as a defender, as a leader. All that's coming up. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here in segment number 1, I like to give you the news and notes of the day. And really, it's just going to be a recap of what was going on between Friday's practice and Sunday's practice. And they're off today. So let's go ahead and give you that recap, jump right into it. Off top, Friday and Saturday, 2 thumbs up for the defense. Defense played really well on Friday and Saturday, coming up with multiple plays. Trayvon Merrick showed up to the party. He was a guy that I kept saying multiple times that 25 is out there, but he's not really out there, or he's just out there. He's not really making any plays. On Friday and Saturday, he made plays, breaking up passes, intercepted a ball on Saturday. He's really starting to look like he's got a little bit more confidence in what he's doing out there, and I think a lot of that has to do with Marcus Epps, the guy that they brought over from the Eagles as a free agent. Him and Marcus Epps are kind of like inseparable, right? They're always with each other, and Marcus is always kind of giving him a little bit of feedback here and there, and just kind of looks like things are starting to click for Trayvon Merrick, which would be great. Again, he's a former second-round pick. He's a guy that's got a lot of work to do to prove that he belongs on the team, but to be able to see him stack days, have multiple days where you see him show up and make some plays, that was a good thing. As far as the rest of the defense, 7 interceptions off of Jimmy between Friday and Saturday, something that nobody wants to hear, that the quarterback got intercepted so many times. But I think it's a great positive that the Raiders defense was able to make those plays, right? When the plays are there to be made, they go and make those plays. Max Crosby has been unstoppable. He's that guy that, he's been wrecking the offense no matter what. It don't matter if they're inside, if they're in the outdoor facility. It don't matter. He's just out there, and he's wrecking shop. Matter of fact, he's wrecking shop so much they had to give him Sunday off. Like Josh McDaniels called it a correction day, and they weren't going to get anything corrected with Max Crosby out there. Just the way that he goes. He's just going 110 miles an hour. He's not slowing down. He wants to win at everything. So they gave him Sunday off. Jimmy G has Sunday off. They're going to be off today. They're off tomorrow. They'll be back at practice on Wednesday. And then on Thursday and Friday, they welcome in the San Francisco 49ers to the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center for joint practices. Saturday, they're off. And then on Sunday is the preseason game number 1 at Allegiant Stadium. Raiders third-round pick Byron Young, he returned to practice on Sunday. He made his training camp debut for the Silver and Black. Still no Tyree Wilson, no Neil Farrell Jr., but according to head coach Josh McDaniels, when they're able to get out there, they'll get out there. Vinny Bonsignore asked Coach McDaniels on Sunday if there's a chance that Tyree Wilson doesn't play at all this year, because there's a rumor out there right now that he's not going to play at all this year. It's kind of floating around Twitter, and you know how that goes. And, well, Coach didn't say a whole lot. He's never going to say a whole lot, but he said he doesn't have any concern about him not playing this year. So that's basically what he said about Jimmy G as well. He's going to be very short when it comes to injuries, and so he didn't say a whole lot, but he said that as soon as he's able to get out there, he'll be out there. So no Tyree Wilson, no Neil Farrell, but Byron Young did return to practice on Sunday. Peters, Bennett, and Hobbs, if the season were to start today, I'll just tell you that'd be the starting secondary, right? Marcus Peters on the outside, the rookie Jacorian Bennett on the outside, and Nate Hobbs in the slot. Those three guys have really looked good. And Jacorian Bennett, he basically shadows Marcus Peters all over practice and just learning. But it doesn't look like the moment's too big for him. Again, we'll find out a lot this week when there's somebody else that's not wearing the silver and black that he's actually going up against in practice, in the joint practice when the Niners are in town. But right now, again, if the season started today or tomorrow, which it doesn't, there's still plenty of time before the first game of the season, that would be your starting corners right there. Peters and Bennett on the outside, and Nate Hobbs would be in the slot. And I think that's okay. That's a good thing, right? You want to have the best out there, and right now they're the best. Marcus Epps and Trayvon Merrick would be the starting safeties as well. So just kind of a little bit of recap. Sunday wasn't a whole lot to write home about. Wasn't a whole lot of, oh, man, the offense came back and had a monster day. Again, it was like a correction day. They did everything kind of in slow motion. Almost felt like a lazy Sunday, but it wasn't because they were working on stuff. But it just wasn't like they were flying around. They weren't making a bunch of plays. It was just kind of correcting stuff that they had done wrong on Friday and Saturday. A couple sound bites I wanted you to hear from head coach Josh McDaniels. One is on the offense or the defense being ahead of each other in practice. As an offensive coordinator, he would love for the offense to be, heads and tails way above the defense. But he's the head coach, so he wants, both sides of the ball to be playing really well. So here's Josh McDaniels kind of talking about that balance of offense and defense, where they're at right now in practice.
I've said this a lot. When you're a coordinator, you can have a really sharp day at practice. And when you're a head coach in training camp, it's tough to have a good day, because whichever period you're in, if, the offense wins the period, you feel a little less good about the defense. And if the defense wins the period, you feel a little less good about the offense. So, that's just a natural ebb and flow. I think we've seen some real progress on both sides. And then there's definitely things that we're going to try to fix and improve on here. Today's going to be, I'd say, a big correction day on all three, really in every phase of the game today. Not in pads, less, banging around today, more intentionality in terms of trying to fix a few things, because there's, through 9 or 10 practices, you see a lot of things you got to correct. And I think that taking, some time to address those on both sides and in the kicking game, I think that's a normal portion of training camp. I think we'll find out a lot next week when where you're going against somebody else and you have an opportunity to just, see yourself against a different scheme, against different players. It'll test your rules, it'll test your discipline, it'll test your technique and fundamentals. So, today's a good, cleanup day for us, and then, have a little bit of a rest here, and then, get back at it next week against San Fran. But I don't really have a preference. I hope we just keep making progress.
So there's Coach McDaniels just talking about the offense and the defense, and, the offense having some good days and the defense having some good days. And right now, the last few days have been the defense, right? Sunday, I don't give to anybody. Sunday, like I said, was just a correction day. One thing I did ask Coach McDaniels about in his media session that he had on Sunday before practice was about the defense. They look like they have a purpose out there. They look like they're creating turnovers. Every guy, even when like Devontae Adams catches a ball or Hunter Renfrow catches a ball, 3 or 4 defenders are trying to punch that thing out. Like they're just doing it in repetition. Boom, boom, boom. They're all trying to knock the ball out, or they're making a play on the ball when it's in the air. So I told him that I noticed it, and how much, where does he feel about the defense looking to create those turnovers? How does he feel about the defense looking to create those turnovers?
We've talked since the beginning of the offseason about, being able to create more explosive plays defensively in terms of, turnovers or negative plays. And I think, if you practice it, and you practice it and it becomes kind of part of your how you play on every play, you're hoping that that's going to carry over, because, you can't just not work on something and then the game start and say, okay, let's just force turnovers. You have to be able to try to do that in practice and work on the skills and techniques that are required in order to do that. So I see our defense really challenging the offense in many ways. I think we have drills you guys see us run every day that, are focused on trying to get the ball loose or get it out. I think we've had a number of guys that, have gotten closer to the football or gotten their hands on the ball and caught the ball. So that's a good part of training camp, to be able to build those fundamentals and start to gain some confidence in your ability to do that as a unit. obviously nothing provides more energy to the defense than when they take the ball away. So good to see in that regard. And offensively, we're trying to do a good job as best we can to try to keep it away from them too. So, it's a good battle.
Final soundbite I have for you from head coach Josh McDaniels is about the guy we're going to talk about in segment number 2, Marcus Peters. What does he bring to the table? And I'll tell you, what I've seen, especially over the past few days, you can see that he's really getting into shape. He's rounding himself into form. But, man, he's out there having fun as well. And he's helping these guys a lot. Again, we'll talk a lot about Marcus Peters in segment number 2. But here's head coach Josh McDaniels talking about what he brings to the table.
I told you guys before, I've coached against him a number of times. And he and I go back and forth on that, because he's definitely made some plays against us. And we've made some plays against him. And but he's got a great spirit about him. He's a football player through and through. Really understands the game at an elite level. Really a smart player. The thing you don't know until you work with somebody is how much they're willing to offer other players, other younger people on their side of the ball or on the other side. And you see Marcus out there. He's willing to share, and he's really trying to help anybody that he can, along with the fact that he's trying to reestablish his level of performance year after year after year. You don't get to carry anything over, and you see him out there competing against the best guys we got, and he's excited to do that daily. But just, really, really excited about him and the things he does to help you play good defense, and you see those every day.
Head coach Josh McDaniels right there on Marcus Peters. And as I mentioned, we're going to talk all things Marcus Peters coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, what he brings to the table, what he believes he brings to the table, and really what stood out to me about Marcus that I didn't really expect. We'll talk about all that coming up in segment number 2 after I tell you about FanDuel. Right now, you need to take your first swing at betting Major League Baseball on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets, up to $200. That's right, just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under, who you think is going to hit the first home run, first 5 innings, get the first stolen base, whatever the case is. It's all in an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. No better place to bet on Major League Baseball than FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to talk about the addition of Marcus Peters. And Marcus Peters, ever since he signed with the team, kind of wanted to know where he was at, where his head was at, what he was going to bring to the table. Of course, he's got a hell of a career already, 32 career interceptions, so he's a ball hawk, right? But, of course, this is not vintage Marcus Peters. This is not Kansas City Chief Marcus Peters or even early Rams Marcus Peters. This is older Marcus Peters, still trying to get his legs under him after coming back from that ACL surgery last year. So don't really know exactly what to bring to the table, but you know that in his career, he's done a really good job with creating turnovers, something that the Raiders really desperately need and something that they've been focusing on in training camp. So before we get into hearing from Marcus Peters, who actually got to talk to us on Saturday, and it was funny, we've been asking for Marcus ever since he's joined the team. Wanted to talk to him, wanted to get him at a media session. Finally, they made him available on Saturday. And I'll tell you this, I learned a lot about Marcus Peters in that conversation that he had with us and just where he was mentally and what he was trying to bring to the table, not only as a player, but as a leader. And I thought the leadership was really massive from Marcus Peters. And so it really kind of made me feel a lot better about the direction that this Raiders defense is going. Clearly, they've brought in some veterans to help the young guys speed up their learning curve and brought in guys that are willing to help teach these younger guys, including a Marcus Peters. But before we get to some of his sound bites, I want you to hear what Cynthia Freeland from NFL Network had to say. She was on my radio show on Friday, Raider Nation Radio 920, Unnecessary Roughness, and I asked her about Marcus Peters. She's been around the game a long time. I asked her what she thought he was going to bring to the table in 2023 as opposed to, what he was doing a few years back when he was, the ball hawk that was getting 7, 8, 9 interceptions a season. What does she think Marcus brought to the table this year for the Silver and Black?
I'll be honest with you, you don't really want him to be that guy necessarily in this type of defense. Offenses have changed considerably in the past 3 seasons especially. And Marcus Peters is a guy who, when he was a little bit younger, sometimes he would take some gambles. I think it's smarter for him to sort of sit back, read what the offense is giving him a little bit more, and leverage his expertise. Because I think that the maturity of a player and the ability to know what you're capable of doing and understand your angles, that's probably even more helpful than having just like that raw, I'm 25 years old, I'm going to knock your block off. You want both, but it's not like he can go back in time and get in time travel and go back in time. So it's not going to look the same, but I think that the concept and what he knows and the expertise he's bringing in his ability, because he's great with angles. And he's great. Like, remember, he had a guy when he was in Baltimore, like the other side of that, Marlon Humphrey was kind of a more, like, just a different type of guy, and they complemented each other well. Well, he understood what Marlon Humphrey was able to do, so therefore you can kind of get the best out of both, if that makes sense. So you can evolve, right? You don't necessarily always need to be that guy who's like super, super physical to be super, super impactful.
So good breakdown right there from Cynthia. And it's funny because she alluded to his leadership and what he can do and help, mentor the younger guys. And I didn't know if that was a role that Marcus Peters wanted to play. A lot of guys don't want to play that role. But after what I heard on Saturday from him himself, I realized that that's definitely a role that he's interested in. Before we get to that, though, of course, he's a young man from Oakland, California. He grew up a Raider fan. His family are big Raider fans. He's wearing the number 24. We all know that that's a huge number with the silver and black, right? You wear number 24, the expectations, at least every fan, I know I do. I see 24 on somebody's back wearing a Raider jersey. I'm like, hey, man, that's a high bar to raise right there. Jonathan Abram wasn't able to do it. At one point, David Long was wearing that number. When Marcus Peters came to the silver and black, he got that number 24 jersey. So how does he feel wearing the number 24?
Oh, it's a blessing. You feel me? But that's my favorite corner, you feel me, for me growing up. I know some people might say Deion, but me being able to be in the backyards of C. Wood and watching him do what he was doing as a rookie and then keep going on, man, and then, you feel me, he used to be out in our Oakland streets, you feel me, and my pops and them just tell us stories about, them chilling and hanging out, you feel me, and that's big, you feel me, and it's just a blessing, you know what I'm saying, to be able to rock a number that he wore, and yeah, it's a blessing. I don't know. I don't got too many words for that, but blessing.
So there's Marcus Peters right there showing that love to Charles Woodson, the guy that, he grew up watching wear that number 24. Of course, you got to shout out Willie Brown. Charles Woodson's not the only person to wear 24. That was great. But, for me, he was my favorite Raider, and that's who I think of when I see 24. But, I know depending on how long you've been watching the Raiders, how old you are, right, you could be thinking of someone else like the late, great Willie Brown. So thought that was cool that Marcus was so excited to wear 24 and tip of the cap to Charles Woodson. So, one of the things that he said, he's an older dude now. He said that the guys in the locker room were calling him OG. So I asked him straight up, like, did you ever think you would be in a position where people would be looking at you and saying, hey, OG, and asking you to, be the OG in the room and drop some advice?
Yeah, hell yeah, because what I'm saying, I'm going to stop playing this game when I don't want to play no more. You feel me? And I know you're going to get older, but it's a game god out there. Man, somebody got to be able to give it out. You feel me? And it's just my turn. You know what I'm saying? I had my leaders, Eric Berry, Justin Houston, Keith Lee, Sean Smith, Ron Parker, and many more, you feel me? And I listened to them, and they just kept saying, bro, it's going to be your time soon, you feel me? And when it is your time, just, just be the same cat you is and just lead them, you feel me? Because they gonna turn to look to you now, you feel me, for information. And if you got it, man, why not pass it on, you feel me?
So there it is, Marcus Peters right there talking about being the OG in the room, and he's excited about it. That's the cool thing. Every player doesn't want to be the guy to mentor the younger players and help them come along. A lot of the players will look and say, hey, you're a young cat trying to take my job. You think I'm going to coach you up to take my job? No, I'm going to try to squeeze out as much playing time as I can get and squeeze out as much money from this league as I can get. And Marcus Peters is like, no, I'm trying to drop knowledge. I'm trying to be that open book. I'm trying to be that guy, that they can come to and ask questions, and I'll be there for them. And if not, then we'll do it together. And he said that specifically when he was talking about rookie Jacorian Bennett, who, as I mentioned earlier, does not leave his side. Right? I mean, obviously he leaves his side when they're going through drills, but when they're off to the side, Jacorian Bennett is picking his brain, just talking to him. So here's Marcus Peters talking about rookie Jacorian Bennett staying by his side all the time.
Tell everybody, man, I'm an open book, and for you to, for you to get the information, you got to go want to pull it out the library. You got to go want to read it, and he just come over and ask questions, you know what I'm saying? And every question he got, if I don't got the answer, we going to figure it out together, you feel me? And then when we get in the meeting room, he sit right next to me, and he's still asking questions, you feel me? And that's how I go. That's how game pass down most of the time. You don't got to really say too much. Just pay attention. You feel me? And that lead by example and pay attention by example. And then it's going to start. You just start just filling in. You filling in your little information of how you do and add everything to his game. And then it's going to be him.
So I think that the addition of Marcus Peters is only going to help Jacorian, only going to help Nate. It's going to help, obviously, the defensive line because, again, he can be that guy that maybe makes the quarterback hold the ball a second longer, right? And then maybe that second will help Max Crosby get home, Chandler Jones get home, Tyree Wilson when he's out there get home, whoever get home. I just think that he's a nice added addition to this Raiders defense just with the attitude and the, I hate the word swagger, but the swagger that he brings to the table where he's got that confidence and it's infectious. It makes everyone around him that much more confident. Hell, it makes the safeties that much more confident because they believe that they have someone they could trust out there at the corner position. I'll tell you, just watching him at practice, he is encouraging the wide receivers. He's encouraging the other corners, the safety. I mean, he's all over the field just helping guys out, right? Even when a guy catches a pass on him or something, you'll see that he's angry that he gave up a catch, but then he'll go to the guy, man, great rep. I like when you did this. Or, it's just there's a lot of stuff you can learn from watching, just kind of observing Marcus Peters in a practice setting. So Vinny asked the question, Marcus has been on some really good defenses. In LA, really good defense. In Baltimore, really good defense. So does he see any similarities from those defenses to the defense that he's currently playing on with the Raiders?
Yeah, we hungry. You know what I'm saying? We want to up everything that we going to do on defense, and we want to, like I say, we want to show our effort. We want our communication to just be displayed in our play. And then our play, you know what I'm saying, going to be able to show all our effort. And we want to have fun doing it at the same time. And I think that we all on the same boat of just come to work, you know what I'm saying, keep building our camaraderie together and then be ready to put a product on the field that's Raiders. You feel me?
I love him saying that they're hungry. They need to be hungry, right? They've been the unit that everybody's been talking about. Last year, around this time, everybody was talking about the offensive line, right? Remember, the offensive line is going to be terrible. There's no way that this team's going to be good because the O-line's going to stink. They heard all of that, right? They went out there with a chip on their shoulder, and look, were they perfect? No. But they helped Josh Jacobs lead the league in rushing. They still needed to be better in pass blocking, but they did a pretty good job in run blocking. And once they were established of who the starting five was going to be, it took 5 or 6 weeks into the season. So the defense knows that they need to be better. Max Crosby knows that they need to be better. Hell, he saw me on Saturday, and he was saying what's up to me, and I was, man, how's things going? How's camp? And this was just in just a kind of passing by. He was coming out of the cold box, getting his body temperature right, and it was like a little break in the session. And he saw me to the side, and he just started talking to me. And so I said, "How's everything going?" He said, "We're going to be good." And he just nodded, gave me that look, "We're going to be good," and then he ran off in practice. So he knows. They all know that everyone's talking about the defense and how they need to be better. And I believe the addition of Marcus Peters is really going to help out in a major way. Again, I didn't know what to think of of what the addition was going to be. I didn't know if this was going to be a Marshawn Lynch type situation when he joined the Raiders. And as much as I like Marshawn the player and like Marshawn the person, I didn't like Marshawn the Raider. I didn't think he was there to be for the Raiders. I thought he was there for Marshawn, which, that was his objective, and that's his right to want to play for his childhood team. I'm not mad at that, but it just felt like it wasn't about making the Raiders better. It felt like it was make Marshawn a Raider, right? It felt like that. And again, this is, two different scenarios from where I'm standing at too. I'm actually at practice. I'm at training camp. I'm watching this where in 2017 when when Marshawn was with the Raiders, I wasn't. Right, I was still in Texas, so I wasn't there every day at practice. So maybe he was trying to pump up the players and try to help the guys out and coach them up during practice. But it just seemed like for Marshawn, it was about just being a Raider because, well, it's one of their last years in Oakland, and he wanted to make sure he was an Oakland Raider before they left for Vegas. Marcus Peters just looks like he's a guy happy to be a Raider, happy to be playing football, happy to be on this defense playing with Max Crosby and these other guys, and trying to help them get where they need to be. It just feels different. So I'll continue to obviously monitor. We'll continue to talk about it, but I think it's a really good addition. And I'll tell you, once I left the media session on Saturday with Marcus Peters, I felt a lot better about who and what he was going to bring to the table this year for the Silver and Black. But that's all I got for you on Marcus. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and texts, 707-654-4693. This is the Locked On Raiders podcast. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Starting us off is Chef Raider in the 860. He's calling to talk about the guy I just spent all of segment 2 talking about. Marcus Peters. Here he is, Chef Raider.
Yo, what's going on, Q? What's going on, Raider Nation? It's your boy, Chef Raider 860. Hey, Q, I had a question for you. I'm watching this training camp breakdown with Eddie Pascal and Jesse Merrick on YouTube right now, right? And they're just talking about Marcus Peters' effect on the cornerback room and interview with Amik Robinson. Pretty good stuff. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it or watched it already. But anyway, they're talking about Marcus Peters and, you know, his fandom of the Raiders, where he grew up and so on and so forth. And then they mentioned that his father had never worn any of his jerseys since he's been in the league because he wants to stay true to the brand, right? So I was wondering, how did his family feel, like his father in particular, you know what I mean? If you could ask, that'd be fantastic. Fantastic. How did his father feel when he saw his son in a Chiefs jersey? I mean, Rams, you know, Baltimore, I'm sure, and I'm saying, obviously, he's not rocking them, but with, you know, how we as Raiders fans feel about Chiefs fans, or, you know, feel about the Chiefs, I should say. How did his dad feel seeing his son in a Chiefs jersey? That's what I want to know. If you could ask or slip that in the question or somewhere, that'd be great. Anyway, yeah, I'm out. Peace.
Chef Raider, thanks for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And yeah, really good question. And that's honestly something that we should have followed up with because, man, when him saying that his dad couldn't wear his jersey because, well, he wasn't a Raider and he's a diehard Raider fan, it must have felt some kind of way, him being drafted by the Chiefs, right? Now, of course, he's going to be proud of his son. He's going to be, you know, happy for his son. But just to know that he didn't wear his son's jersey at all because he wasn't a Raider, that tells you all you need to know. So I'm sure that Marcus is super proud of the fact that he's able to put on that silver and black jersey and his dad is able to wear that jersey with his name on the back. I'm sure that makes him so proud and so happy for, you know, the role that he's in as a Raider now. So that's pretty exciting for him. So thanks for that call, man. Do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Vegas Mike. Say, what's up, Q? It's Vegas Mike. I know we talk about a lot of players that are under the radar, but one player I haven't heard much of this training camp is Duke Shelley. I think he's a young vet, can definitely be a contributor, but was wondering if you heard or seen anything regarding him. Thanks, Q. Be easy. That's from Vegas Mike. And no, when it comes to Duke Shelley, man, not a whole lot, right? Really not a whole lot for the corners. And there's a lot of guys in the room. There's 11 of them, even though Brandon Faison's not been practicing because he got injured earlier last week, really early in the week. Matter of fact, got carted off. I believe it was either Tuesday or Wednesday. He got carted off of practice. And Josh McDaniels said that it wasn't as bad as it looked, so he hasn't been practicing. Duke Shelley is out there, but I mean, I haven't seen him make any big plays, right? But really, the guys that have been making the plays in the cornerback room are Marcus Peters, Nate Hobbs, and Jacorian Bennett. Like, those are the three guys that are really getting after it right now. And like I said, if the season were to start tomorrow, which obviously it doesn't, if they were, those would be the three starting corners, the two outside and Nate Hobbs in the slot. So I'll see. Next time we get out there and watch practice, I'll see what I see from Duke Shelley, and hopefully I'll be able to bring something more to the table on him. But right as of now, not too much on Duke, but that's going to be some competition. 11 guys in the room. Obviously, 11 guys aren't going to make the team. Thank you so much for the text. Up next, got a call from Ghost Tag or Ghost Town Raider. Oh, he's calling out of the 760. Sorry, I don't get your name right. He's calling after hearing what Marcus Peters had to say in his Saturday press conference. Here he is. Ghost Tag or Ghost Town Raider.
Hey, what's going on, Q? I just heard that pressure from Marcus Peters, man, and I just want to say I'm excited because he sounds like he's ready. He sounds like a dog. He sounds hungry. He said all those things, man, that the Raiders been needing. And then him being from Oakland, you know, bred in Oakland, I'm excited to see what he's going to do this season. And I just wanted to get your take on from what you heard in the press and what he said and how you think this all might play out. This is Lois County Raider. Thank you.
Thank you for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And yeah, I mean, he sounds the part, right? I think he really is going to help the development of Hobbs and Bennett in particular. They love playing with them. I know that for a fact. Nate Hobbs talked to us on Sunday after practice, and you could tell how fired up he was about Marcus Peters. Jacorian Bennett, same thing. So, you know, I don't know what Marcus's numbers are going to be as far as interceptions this season, but I feel like he's going to get his hands on a few balls, right? I feel pretty comfortable around, 3 or 4. I really do. But more importantly, I think he's going to play that mentor role and help Jacorian Bennett along, help Nate Hobbs continue to develop. I think he's good for the room. Let's put it like that. That's probably going to be his biggest contribution, but at the same time, he's going to make some plays as well. So thank you so much for that call. Do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from 805 Raiders. Says, hey, Q. Thank you for all your camp coverage. Locked On Raiders is a nice start to the day when the rest of my podcast feed is depressing politics and news. Calling in to ask if you noticed anything interesting from the international player, David Agoha. I'm guessing he is still very raw, or is he? That's from the 805 Raider, and thanks for the text. I do appreciate you. Thanks for the compliment on the show. And, from what I've seen so far, it's really been a lot of special teams with Agoha. He's just kind of out there doing the drills. Not really a whole lot on the defensive side of things, but that doesn't mean that he's not somebody that they like. Right? I mean, he's a guy that's not taking up a roster spot. He doesn't count against the 90-man roster. And if he does, make the practice squad, he doesn't count against the 16 guys that you can have on the practice squad either. So they have a real chance to kind of bring him along slowly. Like, they don't have to force him into action to see what he has. They can kind of bring him along slowly and realize that if they want to hold on to him, they can hold on to him and they won't get penalized. So I think that that's the plan. I think it's the long-term plan with him. But, I mean, he's out there every day, and I see a lot of them in the special teams drills. I don't get to see a lot of them in the defensive drills. One, because they practice on the third field super far away, and then two, again, he's not in as many drills. Like, he's not in the 11-on-11 when they're in front of us or the 7-on-7 when they're in front of us. So thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. We'll close out the show with a call from Lodi, California Raider. He's calling to talk about Jimmy G and Josh Jacobs and how the two go hand in hand. Here he is, Lodi, California Raider.
Hey, what up, Q? Really enjoy listening to you on a daily. You bring a lot of great content, and I look forward to listening to it. My question to you is, there's talks that Josh Jacobs and the Raiders are going to get back into, hopefully, but is that a possible indicator that Jimmy G isn't as healthy as he needs to be right now? In other words, they're going to pay Josh because they need him to be a dog running that ball. And if Jimmy G doesn't follow through the season, they got to ride with Hoyer and Aiden. Just a thought. I saw something on TikTok. I know it's TikTok, but there's a little glimpse of Jimmy G at practice limping. Anyway, your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Lodi, California Raider, out.
Thanks so much for the call, my man. I appreciate you. Shout out to Lodi, right? Shout out to Lodi. I know it's near Stockton. I was thinking of Nate Diaz when I thought of Lodi. Nate's the Stockton native who got beat down by Jake Paul, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I used to drive through Lodi, so shout out to you. But anyway, getting back to your call, I don't think Josh and Jimmy, I don't think that those two are tied to each other. Josh Jacobs, that's a situation that's going to get done at some point. I think it's going to be very Saquon Barkley-like, where there's going to be, the franchise tag is $10.1 million. They'll put a little sugar on top. I'm sure that Josh wants more than the $900,000 that Saquon Barkley got. That was basically nothing. He got like $900,000 in incentives that he can hit, which he probably won't hit. Got $2 million of the $10 million as a signing bonus. So, he really didn't get hardly anything for a guy that was talking about he might potentially sit out the season. He didn't even think about it. He was the first one to camp. So I think that Josh will probably, as Josina Anderson said on Friday's show, and if you didn't get to hear that, you should go back and listen to it. Some really good stuff as she was talking about, what she thinks should happen with Josh Jacobs in the contract situation. She basically summarized it around $12 million will get it done. Right. Again, it can't be a long-term deal. It can only be the franchise tag, and they can always put something on top of it if they want to satisfy him and make him a little bit happier. So I think that that's what's going to happen. The two, though, I don't think go together. Jimmy's going to be fine. Right. Jimmy's going to be okay. He was a little banged up on Friday when they were in the indoor facility. What happened was the pocket collapsed around him, and then somebody stepped on his ankles, like cleated him basically. And so he went down, and when he got up, he was a little gimpy, but he came back out on Saturday and practiced fine. So there's I wouldn't say there's anything to worry about there as far as Jimmy and his health. Of course, there's always a concern with his health, but as far as like Friday and him being a little gimpy on the indoor, that was really all that is. Jimmy's going to be fine, I believe. He's just got to work out the kinks right now. And right now the defense is beating them in practice. So, who knows? Maybe this week all of a sudden the offense shows up. And, again, we'll learn a lot about Jimmy and the offense on Thursday and Friday when they go against the 49ers in joint practices. That, my friend, will be very interesting. So that's all I got. Thanks so much for that call. I do appreciate you, but that's all I got time for on today's show. Coming back tomorrow, we'll have more calls and texts. We'll have more news and note, plenty of conversation. Again, the Raiders are off today. We'll talk to assistants on Tuesday, and they'll be back at practice on Wednesday. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.